When they chose to come for you, my dear chosen one, they didn't start a fight. They started a countdown on their own life. And they don't even hear the ticking yet. That's the part your enemies never understand. They think messing with you is just sport. A little gossip here, a little sabotage there, a little shade in the shadows where you can't see it. In their mind, it's harmless, private, safe. They really believe they can take shots at you and walk away untouched. But every time someone targets a chosen one, life itself puts a red flag next to their name. A warning light starts blinking on the dashboard of their destiny, and from that moment on, they're driving with a cracked engine and no idea what's coming. My dear chosen ones, hear me clearly. What they're trying to do to you is going to blow up in their face. They think they're playing you, but they're playing themselves. They think they're digging your grave, but they're just jumping in first. That's not superstition. That's pure cause and effect. That's what happens when small people aim big hatred at a soul that's not built like everyone else. Hurting a chosen one is like punching a mirror. Sure, the glass shatters, the impact feels real, and for a second they feel powerful, but who bleeds first? The hand that swung, not the reflection. Life has a cold sense of humor. The trap they set for you becomes the cage they can't escape. The rope they tied with your name on it slowly wraps around their own future. They don't see it at first, but the countdown is running. And I know what you're thinking, chosen one. If all that is true, why does it feel like I'm the one getting hit? Why am I the one carrying the pain while they walk around smiling? Because you feel everything deeper. Because you're built with more sensitivity, more awareness. You notice the storm as it's forming. They only notice it when the roof is already gone. Let's get real for a moment. People who obsess over tearing someone else down are more likely to destroy themselves. That's not spiritual poetry, that's human psychology. When they make you their mission, they abandon their own. Their health starts slipping because the stress never turns off. Their relationships become strained because negativity is the only language they speak now. Their sleep disappears. Their mind turns into an enemy, and their energy becomes chaotic. While they're busy trying to poison your peace, they're drinking that poison first, sip by sip. Before we go any further, my dear chosen ones, pause for just a moment. If this message is hitting you in places no one ever spoke to before, if you feel seen, understood, and empowered right now, then support this movement by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Your engagement is not just a click, it's fuel. It tells us that messages like this matter, that real truth is needed, and that there are souls out there who refuse to stay silent, small, or broken. Join us, grow with us, rise with us, and let's keep building powerful, life-shifting content together. And here's where it gets even more brutal. That self-destruction speeds up when the person they target is someone like you, someone who didn't do anything but grow, glow, and mind their own business. Someone who walks with purpose, with intention, with integrity. Someone whose presence alone exposes what's fake in other people. The moment they aimed at you, my dear chosen one, their expiration date started ticking. They just don't know how close the clock is to zero. You might feel alone in the middle of it. You might think, why isn't life stepping in? Why does it look like they're winning? But understand this, just because you don't see the consequences yet, doesn't mean they're not building. Life doesn't always clap back in public. Sometimes it works backstage. While you're healing, they're unraveling. While you're learning, they're looping. While you're rising, they're rotting from within. Have you noticed this pattern? The ones who come for you always end up exposing themselves. They fall out with their own friends. They start slipping at work. They can't stop talking about you even long after you've moved on. They become obsessed with proving a point you never asked them to make. That's not coincidence. That's their own energy boomeranging back, hitting them harder than they ever hit you. Chosen one, your kindness was never weakness. They just misread it. They saw your empathy and labeled it soft. They saw your silence and called it fear. What they never realized is your calm is not emptiness, it's alignment. You're not quiet because you're scared. You're quiet because you know not every punch deserves a response, and not every attack deserves your energy. You're not here to wrestle in the mud with people who are determined to stay dirty. They don't get punished because you're better than them. They get punished because they tried to block a path that wasn't theirs to touch. They tried to throw shade at a light that wasn't theirs to dim. Your growth triggers their jealousy. Your strength exposes their weakness. Your resilience highlights how fragile they really are. Instead of fixing their own wounds, they tried to fix their discomfort by attacking you. But life doesn't reward that. It corrects it. So remember this, my dear chosen ones. When someone tries to bury you, they're the ones climbing into the hole. You aren't the problem. You're the trigger. You're the mirror that shows them who they really are. And what they're trying to do to you, it's not going to take you out. It's going to take them apart, piece by piece, while you rise, heal, and step deeper into the power they were so desperate to shut down. Chosen ones, before we move any deeper into this message, take a second to anchor yourself in this moment. If you feel the truth waking up inside you, if your mind is connecting dots no one ever explained, then show your presence here. Hit like, subscribe, and comment 77 so we know you're not just watching, you're evolving. Your support tells us you want more raw, unfiltered, life-shifting content like this. And if you're ready to walk this path fully, consider using super thanks to fuel what we're building here together. Now breathe, stay focused, because what comes next will confirm everything you've felt but never said. Let's continue. Number 1. The dirt they buried you with became the mud that traps them. When they tried to bury you, they accidentally buried themselves. Those who throw dirt with dirty hands never expect it to become the weight that pulls them under. My dear chosen ones, listen closely. Not everyone who speaks your name deserves access to your story, and not everyone who throws dirt at you realizes they are actually standing inside the pit they're digging. You were never the one sinking. They just assumed you would. They thought you were fragile, easy, emotional, or naive. They mistook your patience for weakness and your calm for fear. They assumed that if they lied loud enough, whispered long enough, or manipulated cleverly enough, they could control how others saw you. But there's a little truth they didn't factor in. When you target someone operating from purpose, growth, and internal clarity, you aren't just gambling, you're forfeiting. My dear chosen ones, ask yourself this. Why did they study you so deeply if they didn't see something powerful in you? Why did they monitor your silence if they weren't threatened by your potential? Why did they invest so much energy in undermining you if you were supposedly nothing special? The answer is always the same. You awakened something in them they couldn't fix inside themselves. You reminded them of everything they failed to become. You reflected back to them the parts they tried to avoid, deny, or destroy within themselves. And that is why they threw dirt. Not because you deserved it, but because you triggered a truth they couldn't handle. But here's the twist. Dirt doesn't drown a seed. Dirt activates it. They thought they were burying your identity, your confidence, or your reputation, but all they did was give you the pressure required to germinate. They turned your setbacks into soil. They turned your silence into incubation. They turned your pain into transformation. What they assumed was the end was simply the dark room where your next version formed. Meanwhile, the same dirt they threw started sticking to their own hands, reputations, and minds. Because negativity isn't disposable, it's recyclable. Whatever you release into the world eventually circles back, evolving into consequences tailored to the sender. This isn't mystical. It's emotional, energetic physics. A person cannot weaponize envy, gossip, manipulation, or sabotage without becoming tethered to it. They glued themselves to the very energy they aimed at you, and now they feel heaviness where they expected victory. What they never expected was for you, the chosen one, to remain standing. They predicted your downfall because they were counting on your reaction, your outrage, your breakdown, your retaliation, your collapse. But instead, you moved differently. You grew quieter, more focused, more self-aware, more selective, more aware of your worth. And that silence became their psychological echo chamber. Everything they hoped you would feel, they began to feel. While you healed, they replayed. While you rose, they obsessed. While you evolved, they unraveled. They did not want closure. They wanted your collapse, but chose the wrong opponent. Chosen ones, do you know why they still watch, mention, stalk, compare, and whisper long after you've detached? Because your existence exposes an unfinished internal battle within them. You became the involuntary mirror reflecting who they are when no one applauds them. And a mirror that cannot be manipulated becomes the most feared object in a liar's world. They tried to measure your identity by their insecurities and ended up trapped inside their own emotional math. Now, here's where it becomes poetic. They thought their actions would label you, but their actions revealed them. They thought they destroyed your image, but they only damaged their own authenticity. They thought people would avoid you, but people eventually questioned them. Because truth is patient. Lies are loud but temporary. Truth is quiet but permanent. My dear chosen ones, you did not survive by accident. You survived because pressure activates purpose. You didn't need revenge. You didn't need to prove anything. You didn't need to expose them. You simply stayed aligned, stayed evolving, stayed unavailable to their chaos. And life handled the rest through timing, exposure, and natural consequence. So stand tall, chosen one. You are not rising in spite of what they did. You are rising because of what they awakened. And while they are still trying to control the narrative, you are already living a chapter they can't access. Your story continues. Their strategy collapses. And that is the true return of energy. Number 2, silent justice strikes with precision, not permission. The universe doesn't miss. It moves with precision, not permission. Those who aim at you without thinking never expect the recoil to rewrite their own story. My dear chosen one, understand this with absolute clarity. You never needed to clap back, prove a point, or dirty your own hands. People mistake your silence for surrender, not realizing it's actually the part where the universe sharpens its aim. They believed they could slide through shadows, whisper poisoned narratives, twist perceptions, and rewrite your truth without ever being confronted by their own actions. They thought subtle attacks evaporate into thin air just because you remained gracious. But energy doesn't disappear, it archives. Every intention, every word, every plot becomes data. And when a chosen one is involved, that data becomes coordinates. The universe doesn't throw random reactions. It responds with exactness, depth, and timing sharper than any weapon people try to use. You must know this. While they hid behind fake smiles, subtle digs, and quiet sabotage, life was documenting every frame. Not because you needed evidence, but because they needed reflection. The universe doesn't play defense around chosen ones. It plays alignment. It doesn't rush, panic, or show desperation. It observes, it measures. It waits for the moment when the consequences will be undeniable, unforgettable, and unavoidable. That's what makes it so poetic. Not fast justice, but accurate justice. Chosen one, many of them acted confidently because they expected an immediate reaction from you. A breakdown, an explosion, an emotional collapse they could point at and proudly declare, "See, I was right." But instead, you remained composed, not because you were numb, but because you were protected by purpose, not ego. And the universe responds to purpose with precision. Their attacks didn't bounce off you. They were absorbed, recalibrated, and redirected back into their own life path, like a returning signal searching for its original sender. Some people don't realize that every time they speak your name with negativity, they're imprinting it into their own energy field. Every lie they manufactured now slowly isolates them, because manipulation cannot socialize forever. Eventually, masks slip from exhaustion. Every trap they silently hoped you'd fall into now feels like tightening walls around their decisions, friendships, and opportunities. The shift may look invisible, but the effects land exactly where it hurts them most: their confidence, their image, their internal peace. And chosen one, you may have wondered, if the universe is so precise, why didn't it stop them early? Because sometimes the villain's confidence is part of the lesson. Life lets people dig deep so no one else has to push them. Exposure isn't nearly as powerful when it happens too soon. It hits the hardest only once they believe they've won. Their pride wrote checks their character couldn't cash. While they were busy trying to manage perceptions, control narratives, and appear superior, the universe was orchestrating the moment where their actions would become transparent. Not because someone snitched, but because truth eventually becomes louder than words. That's not revenge. That's alignment. And here's the part they never saw coming. The universe doesn't strike loud. It strikes where they feel it silently first. In their confidence, in their self-worth, in the mirror they avoid, in the connections that fade, in the opportunities that slip, in the sleep that disappears, in the racing thoughts that never calm. That's precision. When you try to damage someone aligned with growth, your life begins reflecting the exact energy you tried to project. Chosen one, the universe didn't save you by blocking the hit. It saved you by turning the experience into evolution. The reason you still felt pain is because pain was your awakening, while their consequences will be their unraveling. Your hurt was temporary construction. Theirs becomes a long-term correction. They thought they were destroying you, but all they did was strengthen your emotional armor, sharpen your intuition, refine your boundaries, and activate your next level. Understand this: the universe doesn't miss because it's not aiming to punish. It's aiming to balance. And when someone attempts to tear down a chosen one, they don't just trigger results. They activate their own exposure, not loudly, not immediately, but undeniably. You were never losing. They were never winning. You were transforming. They were postponing their consequences. Now breathe, chosen one, and let's continue. The story gets even deeper. Number 3. Your energy vaporizes their darkness on arrival. You don't absorb their darkness. You neutralize it. There's something about you, my dear chosen one, that unsettles people who operate in shadows. Not because you expose them with words, accusations, or confrontation, but because your very presence interrupts whatever toxic ecosystem they thought they controlled. You don't match their energy, you override it. You don't absorb their negativity, you dissolve it. They expected you to react like everyone else, to be infected, triggered, destabilized, or manipulated. But what they didn't calculate is that some people are built with an internal firewall, not by choice, but by alignment, awareness, and inner evolution. Others carry darkness because they never challenged their own wounds. You carry clarity because you faced yours. You don't fight their poison. It loses its strength the moment it reaches your field. You don't drown in their attempts to sabotage you. Their own intentions become the weight that drags them down. This is why they struggle to understand you. They're used to seeing their tactics work. They're used to watching others crumble under their pressure, melt under their manipulation, or collapse under their control. But when they encounter someone who can't be triggered, shaken, or puppeteered, it confuses their entire identity. They don't hate you because of anything you did. They hate you because of what you reflect. You show them the difference between real and artificial, healed and hollow, grounded and fragile, without saying a word. Imagine a room where dishonesty has been the oxygen for years. Lies breathe freely. Ego controls the thermostat. Manipulation is the unspoken language. Then you walk in, and suddenly the walls shift. Masks feel heavier, voices become shaky, stories contradict themselves. That's not coincidence. That's energetic disruption. You didn't expose their truth. Their truth unraveled in your presence. They didn't lose control. They never had it when confronted with someone who doesn't play by emotional corruption. They didn't get revealed. They got tired of holding up a version of themselves that could not stand near authenticity. Think of poison entering water. Everyone expects the water to be contaminated, but when you enter, something different happens. Not because you fight the poison, but because the structure of who you are does not allow it to survive. Darkness cannot dominate where clarity exists. Manipulation cannot function where awareness stands. Hatred cannot thrive where inner peace is already rooted. This is why they never win against you. You're not fighting the same war, and you are not standing on the same battlefield. They're swinging at ghosts while you're anchored in truth. They're building strategies while you're busy evolving. By the time they finish their plan, you've outgrown the version of yourself they targeted. Chosen one, have you ever wondered why some people seem obsessed with your downfall, even when you've given them nothing but silence, distance, or neutrality? It's because your existence challenges their identity. People who build themselves on illusions cannot coexist comfortably with someone built on self-awareness. They rely on control, perception, and manipulation. You rely on authenticity, growth, and presence. To them, you are not competition. You are contradiction. They live externally. You live internally. They survive through validation. You thrive through alignment. They need people to believe them. You don't need anyone to believe anything. Your life speaks for itself. This is what truly disturbs them. Every time they direct negativity toward you, it returns not as revenge, but reflection. You don't retaliate because you don't need to. Their intentions reveal them long before your silence defines you. They don't lose because you win. They lose because your existence highlights what was already unstable within them. Trying to damage someone who is evolving is like trying to block fire with tissue. It disintegrates instantly. The more they try to weaken you, the more you strengthen. The more they try to confuse you, the more self-aware you become. The more they try to break you, the more you reveal resilience they never understood. They want to believe you got lucky. They want to believe you have help. They want to believe someone is backing you. They rarely consider that maybe you built yourself, and nothing terrifies a manipulator more than someone they cannot influence. The reason their mindset deteriorates isn't because you harmed them, cursed them, or wished anything negative. It's because emotional toxins always corrode their container first. You are not their damage. Their intentions are. You are not their threat. Their insecurity is. You are not their enemy. Their ego is. So hold your head high, chosen one. You were never just surviving. You were filtering, transforming, and rising. They expected you to break instead. You became the evidence that what some call weakness is actually unshakable inner power. You didn't escape their darkness. You outgrew it, and in doing so, you proved that not everyone is built to be infected. Some are designed to be the cure. Number 4, they became addicted to the poison they brewed for you. They sipped the poison they mixed with your name. Some people don't realize that the moment they make you the center of their mental world, they slowly begin losing their grip on their own. My dear chosen one, there are individuals who never planned to admire you, but couldn't stop watching you. They didn't begin as enemies. They began as spectators. They observed your silence, your glow, your growth, and your peace. At first, it was curiosity. How do they keep going? Why do they stay calm? Why do they evolve while others stay stuck? But curiosity, when mixed with insecurity, morphs into fixation. and fixation, when left unchecked, becomes destruction from the inside out. Not because of anything you did, but because of everything they refused to work on within themselves. You were simply living, chosen one, breathing, becoming, existing. But they saw something in you they didn't know how to process. They didn't study you because you were weak. They studied you because you represented something they couldn't manufacture. While you focused on your journey, they focused on you. While you mined your lane, they abandoned theirs. It starts subtly, watching your silence, checking your progress, comparing your pace, trying to decode what fuels you. They convince themselves it's harmless observation, but slowly it consumes them. Their mind transitions from "what are they doing" to "why are they doing it and not me?" That shift becomes the poison. Obsession isn't admiration. Obsession is a cage where the door locks from the inside. The more they tried to understand your light, the more it highlighted their shadows. Instead of asking, "How can I grow?" they whispered, "Why do they have what I don't?" That question, rooted in envy instead of improvement, begins the mental corrosion. They didn't realize that making you their mental priority meant they stopped watering their own life. And life without attention doesn't stay still, it decays. Chosen one, picture this imagery. A person aiming to harm someone protected by alignment, like a snake biting steel, assuming venom will melt the metal. Instead, the only damage happens to the snake. Not because steel fought back, but because steel cannot be harmed in the way the snake imagines. Their attempted strike becomes their injury. Their reaction becomes their weakness. Their obsession becomes their downfall. They weren't just watching you, they were abandoning themselves. This is where it gets psychologically deep. The mind cannot serve two masters, growth and comparison. When they shifted from building their own world to monitoring yours, they unknowingly handed over their focus, creativity, identity, and emotional grounding. Their thoughts loop around you like a song stuck on repeat, not because you asked for it, but because they couldn't disengage. And every time they see you rise, even silently, they feel a reminder of where they refused to climb. You became the mirror they couldn't escape, not because you wanted to reflect them, but because your existence naturally reveals the truth, and nothing terrifies an unhealed person more than reflection without distortion. Their relationships begin to crumble because obsession creates emotional distance. Their confidence cracks because constant comparison erodes self-worth. Their energy drains because resentment burns fuel but never generates progress. They're not actually competing with you. They're running from their own unfinished growth. The most ironic part, my dear chosen ones, you never fought them. You never tried to outrun them. You didn't even know they were racing. You weren't playing chess. You were busy evolving. It wasn't your actions that impacted them. It was your existence. You became proof that effort changes outcomes, while excuses create stagnation, and instead of using you as inspiration, they used you as a scoreboard. Here's the twist they never saw coming. Nothing destroys a person faster than trying to outdo someone who isn't competing. Their energy collapses because it has no purpose. Their emotions malfunction because they're directed at the wrong target. Their sense of identity fades because they replaced self-discovery with silent rivalry. That's not a dramatic ending. It's a psychological truth. Chosen one, understand this. You were not their enemy. You were their wake-up call, but they hit snooze too many times. They weren't harmed by your success. They were harmed by their refusal to build their own. The poison wasn't something they drank from your hands. It was something they mixed themselves while staring at what you were becoming. You didn't defeat them. They paused their own life trying to monitor yours. And life continues only for those who move. So keep rising, chosen one, quietly, powerfully, relentlessly. Those who try to track your every step will eventually lose theirs. Number 5, they built the trap, but their own foot triggered it. They dug the trap, then fell into their own silence. My dear chosen ones, pay close attention here, because this is where the story turns from attack to exposure, from manipulation to self-inflicted consequence. There comes a point where those who move against you no longer need an opponent. Their own strategy becomes their downfall. The irony is sharp, the poetry is undeniable, and the lesson is unmissable. The chosen one rarely has to strike back, defend, argue, or prove. Why? Because while others waste their time constructing traps, the chosen keep walking their path, unaware that every brick of deceit, envy, projection, and sabotage is actually being stacked beneath the feet of the one who built it. They truly believed they were genius architects of your downfall. They whispered behind curtains, built alliances based on negativity rather than integrity, and moved like undercover operatives in a mission they created themselves. They rehearsed scenarios where you would stumble. They imagined the satisfaction of seeing you confused, speechless, isolated, or questioned. In their mind, they were always 3 steps ahead, smirking at the idea that you might never see it coming. But chosen ones, silence is not blindness, and patience is not weakness. While they assumed you were vulnerable, the truth was that you were simply unbothered. The most brutal twist is this: the trap was never meant for you. It was built out of their own fears, fueled by insecurity, cemented by comparison, and decorated with desperation. And when someone builds anything from unstable emotional material, they unknowingly sign themselves up to be the first casualty. They didn't realize that every plan built without integrity becomes a cage for its own creator. You did not push them, you did not block them, you did not expose them. Their choices did. Think of it this way, chosen one, when a spider spins a web, it does so to capture something weaker, slower, or unaware. But what happens when the spider builds too fast, too broad, too carelessly, fueled by pride instead of instinct? It gets tangled in its own threads. That is exactly what happened with the people who came for you. At first, they felt powerful, secretive, untouchable. But the web they were weaving wasn't made of strategy, it was made of emotional chaos. And chaos always collapses inward, never outward. Meanwhile, you stayed quiet, you stayed focused, you minded your evolution, your healing, your mental growth, your future. You didn't need to defend yourself because life always reveals intentions better than any speech could. While they performed, you transformed. While they plotted, you progressed. While they rehearsed your ending, you prepared your next chapter. And it was this unexpected contrast that slowly, silently, and painfully exposed them. Chosen ones, have you noticed this part? The downfall never comes suddenly, it creeps in gradually. First, their certainty turns into confusion, then their alliances begin to fade. People who once cheered with them start stepping back, feeling something is off. Their stories begin to seem dramatic, repetitive, inconsistent, or suspicious. They try harder to convince others, which only makes it more obvious. Their energy shifts, their tone changes, their mask slides. They start looking like the very thing they accused you of being. That's not revenge, that's natural alignment. And here is the deepest truth in this story. You were never the prey. You were the catalyst that exposed what was wrong in them long before you ever realized anything was happening. They didn't fall because you fought. They fell because they forgot integrity has a memory. They fell because they underestimated the strength of quiet resilience. They fell because they mistook your lack of reaction for lack of awareness. They fell because ego always walks faster than wisdom, and eventually slips. My dear chosen ones, the reason they fell into what they built is simple. When you move with hidden intent, you eventually trip over what you hid. And while they are busy explaining, defending, or blaming shadows, you are already on the next level, untouched, unmoved, and unbothered. They thought they were the hunters. They thought you were the target. But the truth is, they forgot to look where they were stepping. And that is how the trap closed. Not by force, but by consequence. Number 6, they fired shots at a target they could never reach. They tried to strike, but you were never within reach. My dear chosen ones, let this truth settle. People can only hit what is on their level, and you were never standing where they thought you were. They aimed with bitterness, they loaded their ego, and they pulled the trigger of envy, thinking it would pierce your peace, your reputation, or your purpose. But every attempt they made flew past you like arrows aimed at a cloud. Nothing landed, nothing connected, nothing hit home. Not because you dodged, not because you hid, not because you were weak, but because you were simply not standing where small intentions operate. Trying to bring you down was like trying to grab smoke with bare hands. All they did was exhaust themselves. They thought you were an easy target, just another person they could disrespect, manipulate, or drag into the mud. They assumed they were dealing with someone ordinary, someone unguarded, someone who needed validation or approval. They truly believed that a few rumors, a few silent jabs, a few passive-aggressive tactics, or a few staged performances would break your internal foundation. What they never expected was that you were a completely different class of human. Your identity wasn't built on popularity, applause, or external validation. Your identity was built internally, quietly, through storms they never survived. You were shaped privately, so you couldn't be destroyed publicly. Chosen ones, the moment someone targets you, they are no longer just interacting with you. They are interacting with the life path you are connected to, the timing you are aligned with, and the psychological depth they cannot comprehend. They thought they were fighting a person, but they were really clashing with your growth, your self-awareness, and the invisible momentum that surrounds your journey. They weren't fighting a body, they were fighting your evolution. And evolution does not negotiate. This is why every one of their plans malfunctioned before it ever reached its destination. Have you noticed how their strategies crumble before gaining traction? How their efforts feel delayed, blocked, tangled, confused, or exposed? Have you noticed how they start strong with confidence but end quietly with excuses? That's not luck. That's not chance. That is what happens when someone tries to access a place they were never meant to enter. You aren't protected because someone defended you out loud. You are protected because your path has boundaries they cannot cross, even if they don't understand how or why. To them, it feels unfair. They say you're lucky. They say you always escape. They whisper that things always work out for you. They become irritated without knowing the reason. But chosen ones, you don't survive because you fight harder. You survive because your alignment is stronger than their intentions. Life reroutes storms before they hit you. It seals rooms where your name is being mishandled. It closes doors that were never designed to open for lies. Your journey has built-in filters that block what is not meant to shape you and that frustrates those who try to interfere. Imagine someone trying to stab a reflection in a mirror. They swing with rage, but all they hit is their own projection. That is exactly what happens when someone tries to harm someone aligned with purpose. Their efforts return to them as confusion, stress, self-doubt, and loss of control. The more they push, the more resistance they feel, not because someone is fighting them, but because their actions are not supported by truth. When your intentions are rooted in insecurity, every step feels like walking against gravity. That's why they call it mysterious blockage, but it's not mystery, it's misalignment. Chosen ones don't mistake silence for weakness. Quiet progress is not vulnerable, it is untouchable. You were never standing on the battlefield they imagined. You operate on a level where energy, clarity, and self-awareness are your protection. Their tactics don't work because their motives don't qualify them for access. It drives them into obsession because they cannot figure out why they keep failing. They replay their moves, trying to identify what stopped them, never realizing that nothing stopped them. They were simply never close enough to touch you. So let them remain confused. Let them wonder. Let them analyze strategies that never had permission to succeed. You don't need to prove why they failed. You don't need to explain how you remained untouched. You don't need to announce what protects you. Peace is the proof. Growth is the confirmation, stability is the answer, and your glow is the final statement. Chosen one, you were not hard to destroy. You were impossible to reach, and that will always be their greatest unanswered question. Number 7. They crossed boundaries. Even chaos knows not to enter. They crossed a line wired with consequences they never saw coming. Chosen one, listen closely. There are people who genuinely believe they can walk into your life, disrespect your value, tamper with your peace, and attack your spirit without ever having to face the aftermath of their choices. They see you, but they don't see you. They assume you're like everyone else they've lied to, manipulated, fooled, or stepped over. They think you're territory they can trespass without risk. But what they never understood, and what life is now teaching them, is that not everyone is safe to play with. Not every battle is worth starting. Not every soul is open for invasion. And you, my dear chosen one, are not a playground. You are restricted ground marked with energetic warning signs they never bothered to read. You carry a presence that exposes what people try to hide. Your energy doesn't just enter a room, it scans it. You don't have to confront people. Your existence disrupts their illusions. That alone is enough to intimidate anyone who thrives on control, deception, or hidden intentions. When people with selfish motives step toward someone aligned with truth, healing, growth, and authenticity, they are not just taking a risk. They are initiating their own downfall through miscalculation. It isn't punishment. It's the built-in consequence of tampering with someone who operates at a different internal frequency. Chosen ones have an energy that people can sense even if they don't understand it. Your aura is not loud, but it is powerful. It triggers truth. It activates exposure. It makes masks slip. Some people feel it as admiration. Others feel it as irritation. Those who are aligned with growth feel drawn to you. Those who are aligned with insecurity feel threatened by you. This is why, chosen one, many of your conflicts didn't start from what you did, but simply from who you are. You didn't provoke them. Your presence activated what they were already hiding from themselves. Picture this. Someone tries to break into a vault, thinking treasure lies behind the door, unaware that the vault isn't guarded because it's weak, but because it contains value. They believe they can force their way in, take what they want, and leave unharmed. What they don't realize is that the danger didn't come from the vault. It came from the act of trespassing itself. They triggered the alarm the moment they touched what wasn't theirs. That's exactly what happens when someone targets a chosen one. The fallout begins at the first deceit, not the last. And chosen one, you don't even have to react. That's the most unsettling part for those who go against you. You don't need revenge. You don't need to expose them. You don't need to defend yourself. Truth moves without announcements. Consequences move without warnings. Alignment moves without noise. While they scramble trying to control narratives, you evolve. While they panic behind fake confidence, you rise in silence. And life observes every intention, not just actions, not just words, intentions. Some people think they lost control of their peace because of you, but the real answer is this. They lost it because they attempted to tamper with someone who lives in alignment while they themselves live in distortion. They stepped into a fight they created but weren't equipped to handle. They tried to operate in shadows while you naturally operate in clarity. Darkness always exhausts itself, trying to compete with what simply is. And now, look at the subtle but undeniable results. Their peace feels unstable. Their relationships lose authenticity. Their excuses start sounding hollow. Their confidence becomes forced. Their energy feels heavy and unbalanced, not because you cursed them, but because they crossed themselves when they crossed you. Chosen one, you must understand this truth deeply. Your power is not in your retaliation, it is in your alignment. Your protection is not in loud defense, it is in who you are becoming. Your victory is not in proving anyone wrong, it is in living right. They didn't lose because you fought back. You didn't have to. They lost because they miscalculated your identity. So walk forward with your head high, not with arrogance, but with awareness. You are not untouchable because you are better. You are untouchable because you are aligned, intentional, growth-driven, self-aware, and destiny-focused. And anyone who chooses to interfere with a path that was never theirs will always face the consequences of their own choice, not because of who you are, but because of who they decided to become when they made you a target. Number 8. Their downfall arrives in pieces, exactly how their intent was built. When people go after a chosen one, they never imagine that their downfall won't arrive like a sudden explosion. It arrives like a slow leak, quiet enough to ignore at first, but impossible to escape once it's too late. They expected quick victory, instant gratification, and a storyline where you disappear while they stand tall. But instead, they are forced to walk through the same path they built for you. Except for them, it won't be a short sprint. It will be a slow unraveling. Life doesn't take everything from them at once. It removes it piece by piece, layer by layer, until they are forced to feel every repercussion they created. They spread negativity brick by brick, so life dismantles their stability brick by brick. Nothing about their consequences is accidental or sudden. It is timed, strategic, and deeply educational. My dear chosen one, the first thing to crumble is always their internal peace. Not their money, not their relationships, not their image, but the one thing they swore would never be touched, their mind. They can no longer silence their thoughts, no longer distract themselves, no longer feel comfortable inside their own skin. Their thoughts become loud, intrusive, and repetitive, like an alarm they can't shut off. Every time they try to sleep, they feel mentally stretched between guilt, curiosity, envy, and fear. They try to relax, but relaxation becomes foreign. Their mind becomes like a mattress full of shattered glass. Every turn cuts deeper than the last. They replay every move they made toward you, wondering how much time they have before the next piece of their world falls apart. They overthink your silence, your glow-up, your distance, your progress. They refresh your life more than they work on their own, and that obsession becomes a prison with no exit sign. From there, life begins removing the people they thought they could always depend on. One by one, their allies start thinning out like smoke in the wind. Those they bragged to lose interest. Those they manipulated begin seeing through them. Those they used as validation detach. People start noticing the inconsistencies, the bitterness, the envy, the strange behavior, and the hidden intentions. What once looked like confidence now looks like insecurity. What once sounded like fact now sounds like desperation. Slowly, their audience shrinks while your presence rises. They wanted you isolated, abandoned, questioned, and unsupported. But life turned the mirror around. They begin to learn how it feels to have nobody to vent to, nobody to strategize with, nobody to applaud their manipulation. They begin tasting the loneliness they wished upon you, but for them, it isn't temporary growth. It becomes identity erosion. Next, their emotional stability starts to deteriorate. Stress begins affecting their physical appearance, their energy, their health, and their aura. They look more tired even when they sleep. They feel more drained even when they rest. They lose motivation, passion, and direction without understanding why nothing feels the same anymore. Their face tells the truth their mouth tries to hide. Their energy exposes everything their mask attempts to cover. It's not a curse. It's cognitive overload from internal conflict. They can't outrun what they started, and they can't undo what they fueled. Their body begins responding to what their mind refuses to accept. Then something even heavier hits. Their reputation starts shifting. Not because you spoke, but because life reveals what silence protects. People begin noticing patterns, contradictions, and the emotional residue of envy. Suddenly, the person who tried to destroy your character becomes the one others observe with caution. The same rumors they spread become the shadows that follow them. They feel exposed without anyone exposing them. They become their own evidence, their own witness, and their own downfall. And chosen one, here is the most poetic part of it all. They don't collapse because someone punished them. They collapse because they misused their own energy. Their destruction isn't external. It is an internal chain reaction triggered by their own choices. Life didn't ruin them. They attempted to ruin someone aligned, and in doing so, disconnected from themselves. The regret that arrives at the end isn't loud. It is silent, heavy, and permanent. They realize too late that every outcome was rooted in their intention. You didn't win because you fought harder. You won because you never needed to fight at all. When someone builds their identity on hate, the only possible ending is collapse. Not instantly, but piece by piece, exactly the way they constructed it. Number 9. They launched the attack, but the impact returned home. They pulled the trigger, but the momentum reversed. My dear chosen ones, there comes a moment when you finally realize that every attack launched at you was never really aimed at your downfall. It was a doorway revealing theirs. People don't understand that when they decide to target someone who is aligned with growth, self-awareness, elevation, and inner truth, they are not entering a fight. They are stepping into a losing battle against consequences they never calculated. They believe they are attacking you, but they are actually punching against unseen laws of return, accountability, and energy alignment. It's like firing a weapon in a sealed room. The echo always comes back louder than the original shot. They focus so hard on breaking you that they fail to recognize they are destroying their own emotional, mental, and social structure, one impulsive move at a time. Chosen ones, the moment they targeted you, they assumed you were on the same battlefield, playing by the same rules, feeling the same desperation. They projected their insecurities onto you and mistook it as evidence that you were weak. They thought you would panic, react, beg, or crumble, because that's how they operate. But what they fail to realize is that you are not powered by revenge, reactivity, or ego fuel. You are powered by intention, direction, self-trust, and internal clarity. The more they push to break you, the clearer your path becomes, while theirs becomes tangled, heavy, and mentally exhausting. They thought they were cutting your wings, but all they did was reveal that they never knew how to fly. They convince themselves that if they talk enough, if they gossip enough, if they manipulate enough, if they pull enough strings behind curtains, they will change your fate. Like puppeteers who don't realize the strings are tied to their own wrists. They misinterpret their behavior as strategy, not knowing it's actually self-sabotage disguised as cleverness. The harder they push against who you are, the heavier their existence becomes. They are not fighting you. They are fighting the reflection of who they wish they could be. Every rumor they create becomes a weight on their image. Every lie they share becomes a knot in their reputation. Every attempt to outsmart life becomes a trap they built with their own doubts. Imagine someone sinking in quicksand, but blaming the earth instead of recognizing their own frantic movements. That's them. They are draining their own energy supply, sabotaging their own peace, and tightening their own emotional rope every time they try to harm you. The more effort they put into destroying your name, the more their life begins to mirror the chaos they intended for you. They don't realize that when you live with clarity and purpose, you do not need to fight back. Their actions become their teacher. Life does not react loudly. It corrects silently. Chosen ones, the irony is almost poetic. They hoped you would break, yet they slowly broke themselves through obsession, envy, competition, and constant comparison. They tried to compete in a race that only existed in their mind. They believed you were their opponent when you never even signed up for the contest. They felt threatened by someone who was simply minding their path. And that silent misunderstanding became their downfall, not because you wanted it, but because there is a natural effect when someone misuses their mental, emotional, or social power. Every time they talked about you, instead of working on themselves, they paused their growth. Every time they tried to block your opportunities, they neglected their own. Every time they attempted to prove you wrong, they derailed their own potential. They drained their time, energy, and creativity, trying to win a battle that had no prize. The truth, chosen ones, is that what they are experiencing is not punishment. It is revelation. They are not crumbling because someone cursed them. They are crumbling because they built their life on competition, not construction. When people choose to fight what is meant to evolve, they only end up exhausting themselves. You don't have to defend yourself, argue, or expose them. Time, alignment, and consistency will always reveal what words tried to hide. You were never the stepping stone. You were the checkpoint showing them what they refused to fix. And as you rise, not through ego, but through elevation, they begin to understand that they were never fighting you. They were fighting the part of themselves that feared never becoming you. And as we close this message, chosen ones, let this truth sink deep. You were never the victim of their actions. You were the evidence of their exposure. Your rise was not an accident. It was the outcome of what was already inside you. Everything they tried to use against you only revealed what they lacked and what you were built for. If this message spoke to your spirit, show it. Like this video, subscribe for more, and drop 77 in the comments to confirm your alignment. Share this with another chosen one who needs to hear it.